Doma Sports Talk Worldwide with some news from the world of boxing. So y'all know what time it is. You ain't in a rush to get concussed. Now, of course, it's the countdown to the, biggest fight of the year. Some great fighters, some legends. We know what it is. There's Terence Bud Crawford and Canelo Cinnamon Alvarez, right? These guys going at it. We know all the details. We know that Terence Crawford's going up in weight to challenge super middleweight undisputed champion and Canelo Alvarez. We know that Terence Crawford's going for his third division undisputed. We know that Canelo Alvarez was two-time undisputed by defeating William Skull, came two-time undisputed. We also know that we're having this fight here with Terence Crawford going up in weight against Canelo because Canelo won't fight Benavidez, who was in his weight class, or David Morrell, who was in his weight class. I think those would have been better fights for Canelo. They're right in his weight class, but he didn't fight him. So that's why we're here. I like to always make sure that's clear. We're here because of that. Yes, Canelo would have had a greater fight against David Morrell, who was his mandatory, and David Benavidez, who everybody knows who's his mandatory. Unfortunately, those guys had to go up in weight because Canelo wasn't forced to fight his mandatories. And so therefore, Canelo kept fighting lesser fighters. So he's undisputed, but with me with an asterisk. I don't think that was fair. I don't think that's how it should work in boxing. I think you should be forced to fight mandatories. And if you're going to be called undisputed, then fight the best WBA champion. And the best WBA champion who was David Morrell. As soon as Morrell gets stripped, basically, then they give it to Belanga. Then he fights Belanga. Right? Sounds familiar in the 154 pounds when Demetrius Andrade got stripped and replaced by Leon Smith. Then he fights Leon Smith. So those are things that you got to say up front. For people saying why we fighting and Crawford's too small and all this. Hey, let me just make sure it's clear, and I say it again. At least we get Crawford. At least it's a guy who we think could possibly beat Canelo, right? Possibly give Canelo a good fight. And I've said that in my last video, all those fights of late, we didn't have that element since Gennady Golovkin. So it takes a guy that's coming 2 or 3 divisions up to face Canelo who we think has a good chance against him. And that's a feather in Terence Crawford's cap. Brings me to my point. Canelo's promoter, who used to promote Canelo for a while, in Eddie Hearn. We know Eddie Hearn toots Canelo's horn. That was his job. He's got mad love for Canelo. Even Eddie Hearn, and that's why this is big news, even Eddie Hearn has a slight edge for Terence Crawford. I just think I could close the video down right now. That's huge enough. That's huge news that even Eddie Hearn, who was his promoter and really says things about Canelo, he doesn't, it's a lot of stuff he let Canelo go through. And he didn't say, right? Because he's just pro-Canelo. Even he has a slight edge for Terence Crawford. I think that's huge news. I mean, we know that, I don't even want to really get into it, but we know that when Canelo or anybody that's spoiled, a kid that you give something all the time to and never, gets in trouble for some of the things they do or how they act, they get spoiled after a while. Actually, Canelo has been spoiled for so long, he could have a worse character than he has, right? Because he gets pretty much what he wants, and people twist things around so he can look good at things. And like when it's 154 pounds and was the mandatory for Demetrius Andrade, no one said, hey man, then you the mandatory, you're supposed to fight him or get back in line. That didn't happen to him. At 160, we're not fighting Demetrius Andrade for undisputed. People just let him, call Andrade names, right? And when he's signed for DAZN, and DAZN finally wants to make him fight somebody hard, and in Andrade, who was also signed there, they didn't say, hey, you got to fight him, or we're going to put you on blast in the public, right? And that's the same thing with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn had Demetrius Andrade under contract at the same time, and Canelo just ain't going to fight him. And so no one puts Canelo on blast. They're just like, man, I can't get Demetrius Andrade no fights. And no one just said, you know what? Damn it. You're not fighting. We're not putting no money on you. We're going to put you on blast and promote this other guy who wants to fight. They didn't do that. When you see things like that and you see that you can get away with things like that, you basically get crazy. And, aka spoiled. Canelo is spoiled, but it could be worse. Seriously, people that constantly get what they want, and if they realize, damn, the public ain't gonna let me get away with any damn thing, right? Not to mention the fights, the close fights. Like him and William Skull, the last fight. Like nobody had anything positive to say about a dude who could come and make him miss miserably the whole fight. Had enough stamina to run, if that's what it's called, but when he stood still, outpunched him, right? Made him miss and looked good doing it for 12 rounds. No one said, wow, that's pretty good, for somebody who we didn't think was so good, came from nowhere. And and here's the thing. If Canelo is so great, that shouldn't be able to happen. That shouldn't be able to. A dude off the street can't just walk in a ring, in a small ring, and outclass Canelo for 12 rounds. That can't happen. But no one had anything. All they said is he ran. Not that he got punched, Canelo. Not that he made Canelo miss. Not that when he stayed in the pocket, he threw more punches there in exchanges. Nothing. Nothing positive. So if you're Canelo, you're like, damn, I could just show up, basically. If somebody don't come in here and beat the living daylights out of me, the narrative is going to be I won. Because him and Dimitri Bivol was not a close fight. It was not. It was a one-sided affair, but it was viewed as close. Floyd Mayweather, some idiot gave him a draw, and he lost every single round, probably every minute of every single round, every second, right? And that didn't happen. You can go to San Antonio and have open scoring versus Austin Trout, and they tell you win all four of the first rounds, and they tell him that, and he has to change up. Damn, I lost all four of the first rounds? No, he didn't. And that's what they did. So when you go through all this, you're bound to be, damn, okay, I can do whatever. So that brings me to what I'm trying to say here. That's why I'm more interested, because Terence Crawford, his resume isn't that good. We do stuff to tear him down. And he's just doing one awesome thing after another. And like I say here, he ain't got to be Canelo. I'm enjoying what's going on now. I'm enjoying everyone in boxing giving him his grapes. Not grapes, though, you know what I'm saying, his flowers. Giving him his props. Understanding the accolades that he's achieved. Calling him a legend in public. Those things that he deserves. They're being said now because he's, it's like you better say something good about him for just in case he beats Canelo. You better make sure that this dude is who we've been talking about how he's supposed to be instead of all this other stuff. And so this phase is good for me. To hear people say things like, Eddie Hearn, really? Anybody else is going to be 2 or 3 divisions lower than Canelo and we're going to say that they're going to beat him? Anybody else saying that Canelo can possibly get stopped by a little dude like that? Any other guys running around that they're saying that about? They won't even say that about light heavyweights. You see what I'm saying? That's what's being said here. So that's what I'm enjoying, because we'll mess around and let these brothers from the States, right? USA brothers, we all only talk about what they can't do, what they haven't achieved, who they haven't fought. And in most cases, knowing that they tried to fight these people. So when you got Crawford right now, it's just good to hear, oh, he could possibly beat the guy we've been calling the face of boxing for the last 8 years. He could possibly beat the guy who everybody says undisputed at whatever weight it was, he is, super middleweight, right? He could possibly beat that guy. That's the guy we've been calling number 1 pound for pound or top 5 all the time. So now it's a guy that's 3 divisions under him that we're thinking that could possibly beat him. That is what I'm enjoying hearing. And it's just about, and it ain't about dudes on the street or in the internet. It's from people in boxing. Those opinions matter. So that's what's important. So no matter what Bud does, right? It's like everyone knows how good he is, how good he was his whole career. That's important for me, and it should be important for you. So these opinions, like Eddie Hearn saying he's has him as a slight edge against Canelo, is huge. Max Kellerman saying he's number 1 pound for pound. I know we got Usyk, and I know we got Inoue, but he's number 1 pound for pound because for him, Max Kellerman, He said actually he's just the best fighter. Period. You know, damn what somebody is and what they've done recently. This is the best fighter, right? And Bud Crawford wasn't always this inactive. You know, when he was active, they was ignoring this stuff. You know, so it is what it is. They just kept putting people in front. Inui should not be in front of Bud Crawford ever. If somebody's in front of Bud Crawford right now, it would have to be Usyk. Inui, no. You could put some more people. Yeah, listen. If we're gonna say resume, then we're gonna have to. Then Inui has no shot, right? Inui's awesome and stuff, but Inui's been hit a whole lot. Inui's good though, but let's be down in them lower weights, getting hit and had a couple of close fights. No way. But Usyk, now if you got an argument, Usyk has an argument, but everybody else, let's be real. So yes, Terence Bud Crawford has a slight edge against Canelo Alvarez. It's huge, gentlemen and ladies. Doma Sports Talk, worldwide. And I'm up out of here, y'all.